Thank you, Steve. Thank you, the Big Book Compendium, for having me and for the invite. My name is Cathy. I am an alcoholic. It's lovely to see some familiar faces and my tribe, and some new people, and anyone that's new, welcome to this meeting and welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm a little bit nervous, and after hearing that readout of the lineup of the speakers you guys have coming in the next couple of weeks, no pressure, Cathy, no pressure. Anyhow, as I say, I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is March 13th, 2016. By the grace, I am here. I have a sponsor. I have a home group, which is the Recover Group Belfast. I work with others, and my main objective is to stay in the center of that little triangle, to be right in the center. I'm currently going through the steps again to have a new experience. I'm deep in the middle of step 4, and it's just been amazing. So if you're new, I just beg of you to set aside anything and to have an open mind. And if it doesn't jive with what you hear in this book, then it's just my experience. So I've been asked to speak on step 1, which is we admitted we are powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. And, to be really honest with you, when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, not in 2016, a couple of years before that, I didn't really think I had a problem with step 1. I thought I was just there because, sure, I'm drinking too much, and I didn't know what it meant to be powerless over alcohol or my life to be unmanageable. And, it was very, very difficult for me to grasp that, deep down inside of myself, even though all the evidence was showing me that I couldn't. I'm incapable of seeing the truth. I'm an alcoholic. And I find it very difficult because I would have times of sobriety or just not drinking and come to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous and be able to not drink for periods of time. And I would go out and I would come back in. So how can you tell me that I'm powerless? I have power over alcohol, I thought. And until I got to the bitter end, to that incomprehensible demoralization, where drinking no longer worked, it wasn't a solution. And until I was living in just, unbearable inside of myself, was I willing to look at this step and to be really able to concede that, to let in the idea, to admit, to let in the idea that I am physically powerless over alcohol, mentally powerless over alcohol, and that my life is unmanageable. And today I'm still physically powerless over alcohol and mentally powerless over alcohol. And so for me, this step is very, very close to my heart. This is also a big book compendium, so I'm going to be in our book. So if you guys want to get your books out, we're going to do a little journey through that too. 33rd of our big book, in which our book Alcoholics Anonymous, in which our fellowship is named after. 33rd of its 33rd% of it is dedicated to step 1. So that tells us a lot. It told me a lot. I didn't like how I felt when I was going through these words in this book, but it was exactly what I needed to hear. And so this problem that I have, this 2-part problem that I have, first of all, the first part that I'm that I'm powerless physically over alcohol, and I'm mentally powerless over alcohol. And then the second part, that my life is unmanageable. And until, again, as I say, until I understood the depth of that, I couldn't move past it. I was going to balk at everything. So again, in gratitude, I am very grateful for this book and for that, time it took me to get to where I needed to get to, alcohol being the great persuader to the, I don't like the word rock bottom, so you know what I mean. And so if we open the doctor's opinion and go through it a little bit, and I'll talk about my experience around it. And the doctor's opinion was very, very pertinent to me. Gosh, I better set my time. Excuse me. It was very, very pertinent, first of all, because my childish mind was sold on the idea that a doctor had wrote this, because I had paid a lot of doctors previous years to give me some prescription or some remedy to fix what was wrong with me. There was always something wrong with me and I didn't know what it was. So I was going to believe what this had to say. And, I was, okay, I can maybe look at this because a doctor wrote it. And, it talks on page XXVI in the 4th edition about that we who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe that the body is as quite as abnormal as its mind. It did not satisfy us to be told that we could not control our drinking just because we are maladjusted to life, or that we're in full flight from reality, or outright mental defectives. So I forgot to say that the doctor's opinion, opinion is a judgment, professional, specialized medical judgment. And then it's going to talk about the theory, which is the explanation. So here he's talking about that, and he's saying that, Cathy, do you believe that your body is as quite as abnormal as your mind? And you see, that I couldn't get, because I heard things like it's the first drunk that gets you drunk. And I thought, no, it's not. So I couldn't grasp this. And until I read this, I was curious to see that, okay, so you're telling me that it's just not because I can't control my drinking. There is something going on in my body. There's something not right with me when it comes to alcohol. And that just because I'm maladjusted to life, or that I have other issues, that's not the reason why I can't control the amount of drinks that goes into my body. And so I was grasping that. And it goes on to tell us that my body is sickened. Of course, my body was sickened. I had a tolerance so high at the end of my drinking that, of course, it's going to be sick. And it tells me that if I leave out this physical factor, it's incomplete. If I don't believe this, there's a must in that little paragraph, that I can't be alcoholic. I either have it or I don't. And the doctor's theory that we have an allergy, so it's not his opinion, it's going to be his explanation to alcohol interests. As laymen, our opinion as to his soundness may of course mean little, but as ex-problem drinkers, we can say that this explanation makes good sense. It explains many things for which we cannot otherwise account. So this allergy, well, of course, an allergy, you see a reaction, you break out in something, but I couldn't see that reaction when it came to alcohol. But I could see that, when I read this, that why I went to my godson's first birthday party, cracked open the second beer, and I had to find a plan to get out of there, to get somewhere, to get alcohol to drink the way I wanted to drink. I did not set out to do that before I cracked that Corona, before I drank the first couple of mouthfuls. But after I was on my phone searching for a train to get out of there, to get back to my neighborhood, to go to a bar. That explains many things for which I could not account. And that to a normal person may mean little, but to us it means a lot because it explains things for which we cannot account, right? And you know, it goes on then on page XXV, I to talk about this and the action of alcohol on us alcoholics. It's a manifestation of an allergy, that the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. And once having formed this habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence or reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. So when I pour when I pour the alcohol and the allergen inside of myself, it creates this phenomenon of craving. I don't know how many I am going to have. That does not happen for my sister. She drinks a glass of wine, finishes her dinner, washes the dishes, gets ready for bed, and goes to bed. That doesn't happen to her. That happens to me. And I can't stop it. I cannot break it. This word habit, I don't think it's like a habit they mean today in our society where it's like I have this bad habit. This is like more than a habit because I can't do anything about it. I can't break it. And my problems pile up on me. You know, I'm, coming to and I'm full of guilt, shame, remorse. The laundry's piling up. I'm late for work. Everything's piling up around me. The unmanageability is starting. And I can never safely use alcohol in any form and all. Us, the allergic type. I don't take cough medicine, NyQuil, Robitussin. I don't take desserts with alcohol in them. I don't take foods. This is just my experience because I don't want to trigger anything inside of my body. And, even when this COVID thing started, I wouldn't take that hand sanitizer on my hand. You know why? Because it gave me too much noise in my head about the smell. So I just don't put it on my hands. And then it goes down, I used to hear in meetings, people say to me, you have to find out why you drink. And why do I drink? And that made me think that it was something on the outside was why I drink. Right? I had to find a reason. But this beautiful writing in her book here at the bottom of page XXV again, why men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. I like the results produced by alcohol. I can't tell you what that is, but we know what it is. It talks about this sensation is so is elusive, is difficult to grasp, right? But my sister likes that effect of one glass of wine, and she goes on about her night. I don't like the effect of one drink. I don't. I like the effect of how many it takes to get where I need to go, and I don't know how many that is. Like when doctors would ask how much did you drink, and I would say I don't know, like a couple. I was telling the truth because I didn't know, because it was always more. And until I blacked out or passed out, that's when I had enough. That's when the physical craving was done with me. And this is so hard to grasp that, yeah, I know it's going to hurt me, but I can't differentiate the truth from the false. I don't know that I can't stop at 2. Even though I'm doing it every single day, I can't see the truth from the false. I don't see that there's something in my body that's going to take over after I take that first drink, and I'm going to keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. And my alcoholic life is the only normal one. I wake up in the morning, I go to work, get off work, I drink. I get home in the early hours, I wake up, I go to work, I drink. And that is just over and over again. I'm not thinking about maybe I'll go and call a friend and have a chat. Maybe I'll go to the movies. It's a Thursday night. This is my normal life, right? And I'm restless, irritable, and discontent unless I can experience a sense of ease of comfort, which comes at once by taking a few drinks. My body, my mind, my spirit. I'm restless, irritable, and discontent unless I can experience a sense. It's a sense. It's not even real. At the end, it wasn't. It's only a sense of ease and comfort. Like, this is the root here. And this is what the doctor is telling us, that I'm going to continue. My default position is irritable, restless, and discontent until I can get a drink and sense that ease and comfort. Drinks, I see other people taking a lot of consequences, having 2 beers, reading their book, because I was a bartender, leaving at 8 o'clock. Doesn't happen for me. And when I come to that desire again and the phenomenal craving develops and I pass through the well-known stage of a spree, immersing, remorseful, with a firm resolution not to drink again. I drink again, I keep going through the cycle. And I don't know how long this cycle is going to last. It could be a day, it could be 2 days, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 2 months, it could be 2 years. So what makes me think that I have any power to stop myself from drinking? Like, I did not choose my sobriety dates. I had the great running lie that I could come back to Alcoholics Anonymous every time I picked up a drink. And I couldn't get back because I was in that spree for a very, very long time. And I would come to with the firm resolution, I'm not going to do it again. But of course, like I just read, I get irritable, restless, and discontent, and I'm off again. And I'm going to keep doing that unless I can experience this psychic change, this personality change. There's very little hope in my recovery. Very little hope. And I had a moment at the end of my drinking where I was drinking for oblivion, that you're going to die, Cathy. And that was a moment of clarity, and I believe that was grace. Now, did I stop drinking there and then? No, I didn't. I did something to get myself out of the situation. I was a bartender, and get back to Ireland to be separated from alcohol. And it goes on to say, and on the other hand, and very strange as it seems, those who do not understand, once a psychic change, a personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has occurred, the very person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he ever despaired of, suddenly finds himself able to control his desire for alcohol. The only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules. We get that, but we must do some work. Those rules are to let the idea in that I am powerless physically, and then the mental. I'm beyond medical aid. I'm beyond human aid. I'm hopeless. To stop drinking and to do these 12 steps. And you know, on page XXX, he talks about let me just find my, I think it's, where am I? Oh, sorry, XXIX. I just have a little bit of notes because I'm very inarticulate and I want to be precise here. It talks about, I do not hold with those who believe that alcoholism is an entirely problem of mental control. I've had many men who had, for example, worked a period of months in some problem or business deal which was to be settled a certain date favorably to them, they took a drink or so prior to that date, and the phenomenon of craving at once became paramount, so more important than anything else to all other interests, so that the important appointment was not met. These men were not drinking to escape, they were drinking to overcome a craving beyond their mental control. So I remember I just got a new job and it was a Monday night and I was a waitress, and I said to my waitress and my manager, let's go out. Either they suggested or I'm just taking it on myself because I probably did. I can't remember, but we went out, and around 12 or 1 o'clock, we were down in the Village in Manhattan in New York City. And they were ready to go home and get a taxi. And I couldn't, like, why are we going home? Please, let's go somewhere else. Let's go somewhere else. And they went home and I went looking for alcohol. I wasn't drinking because I just got a new job and had a great time with my coworkers. I was drinking to overcome this craving. The craving had to be fulfilled. I wasn't drinking to escape. And why was that important? Like this paragraph I read, because I just lost a job previous to that, and I just got this new job. And as a result of doing that, I woke up in the morning, no phone, no nothing, and lost my job. I didn't drink that night because I wanted to escape. I drank to overcome this craving beyond my mental control. And, you know, the doctor's opinion right up until page 23 really talks to us about the physical. And, you know, on page 23, we're starting to look at the mental. And I know there's so much more in between that. There's a lot of chapters and I don't have a lot of time to go through it all. And I probably am not prepared enough. But even more about alcoholism. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself. More about alcoholism is in this between page 23 and 43, is talking about the mental powerlessness. And, you know, on the bottom of page 22, it says, we're equally positive that once he takes alcohol, whatever, into his system, something happens both in the bodily and mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for him to stop. The experience of any alcoholic will abundantly confirm this. And he says these observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting that terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. So for 4 years in Alcoholics Anonymous, I would go back to the alcohol and go back to the alcohol, keeping on guard, avoiding people, places, and things. But for some reason, I would always end up drinking because the main problem centers in my mind. That is the control tower. It's like JFK Airport. There's planes coming in, planes coming out, right? There's, you know, all sorts of things going on in there. But that's where the main problem centers for me. It tells me a lie that this time it's going to be different and this is what we're going to do, Cathy. Or perhaps I don't think at all. And there I am at a bar, ordering a drink, asking myself, how did this happen? Well, F it. Tomorrow's another day. And I'll go back to Alcoholics Anonymous. And, you know, that's what we really have to sort out when we come in here. You know, I can't do anything about the physical allergy in my body. The only thing I can have is entire abstinence from alcohol, but that is a start. And unless I do the work, it won't be, what's the word? It won't be that way for very long because again, I get restless, irritable, and discontented. So, and on page 24, for, you know, it talks about a certain point in the drinking of every alcoholic, he passes into a stage where the most powerful desire to stop drinking is of absolutely no avail. This tragic situation has already arrived in practically every case long before it is suspected. At the end of my drinking, you know, incomprehensible demoralization as we know it's, the loneliness as we know it's, drinking into my drink, like, and going, you know, I want to stop and I can't get back to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting 8 blocks away. I couldn't get back. I couldn't get back. I couldn't get a breath from alcohol. And I wanted to, but it was of no avail. Did not work. It was of no avail. And that probably was there before I even, like the book says, before it is suspected. And it goes on in our little like squiggly writing in our little italics. It talks about the fact is that most alcoholics, for a reason yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. A fact is something that's known to be true. For reasons yet obscure. They're delusional. I've lost the power of choice in drink, sober and drinking. I can't keep myself from picking up a drink. My willpower is non-existent. And it says we are unable at certain times. It's certain, right? At certain times, yeah, we don't recall that, you know, memory of the suffering and humiliation over a week or a month ago, but it's certain to happen too. I look at it like that. With sufficient force, with enough power, with enough for it to be effective to stop us of that suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We were without defense against the first drink. So I'm pretty much screwed. And my experience shows me that I'm going to get drunk again. It's only a matter of time if I don't do this work. My mind says yes, and my body says no, and I am powerless. And you know, when I was going through these and seeing these conclusions of the mind, of who I am, it was taking time for it to go from my mind to my heart, to be able to concede that. Like I said to you at the start, I just couldn't get it. And I didn't need to understand everything to a T. I just needed to keep turning the pages. And it didn't feel good. I was ultimately hopeless at this stage still. And that great desperation that I had of a drowning man. And forgive me for taking some of these lines out of context. I'm very unarticulated. But I had that desperation, and I kept turning the pages because I could see that my back was to the wall, and I was not, you're going to use salty language. My back was to the wall, and there was nowhere else or nothing else that could save me. And it was scary, but I knew there was a lot more pages in this book. And I was working with a recovered alcoholic who was not the way I was at that stage. And that gave me hope to keep turning the pages. And again, my desperation, alcohol, that desperation and the desperation without alcohol was my motivation to keep turning those pages. Yeah, like it was the great persuader. It was the great humbler. Nothing else could humble me, only alcohol. it was more and more powerful than my mother, my sister, my family, my job, the law enforcement institutions I went into, because every time I got away from those things, I drank again. So it was more powerful than anything else. And so it was so, so important for me to be humbled. And as I was going down at the end of my drinking, by alcohol being brought down, there was something getting into that vacuum. And that, I believe, is grace today and why I'm here. One of the reasons. And, you know, this unmanageability part of my life that I can't manage the decision to stay sober. I don't have any power. But all of these feelings inside of myself, all of these thoughts in my life is so, so unmanageable. You know, at this stage, I was still resorting to other things to calm, to soothe, let's use that word, that restlessness, irritable and discontented in me. I was going to meetings, I was doing my work, but I was still like the latest, whatever it is, you know, fill in the blank, because my life was really unmanageable. It was coming out in other ways, you know, with my food and other kinds of things. This is Alcoholics Anonymous. I won't get into it, but it was because of the unmanageability in my life. And, you know, on page 44 in We Agnostics, you know, our final little question, you know, asks us if when you honestly want to, you find you can't quit entirely, or if when drinking, you've a little control over the amount you take, you're probably alcoholic. Well, I couldn't quit entirely because of the mental obsession. And when I was drinking, I couldn't control it because of the allergy. Okay. What next, Cathy? Well, you may be suffering from an illness. It's an illness, Cathy. Welcome to the party. You're an alcoholic. And I skipped through a lot in the previous pages as well about, you know, the detailed discussion it gives us, really up from page 21 to the end of the 3 pertinent ideas, the types of drinkers, and being moved by all that evidence to diagnose myself as well. Because my sponsor can't diagnose me. She can't convince me. Let's put it that way. I need to be convinced and moved by the evidence read in this book, that only a spiritual experience will conquer. Only a spiritual experience. Okay. All right. What do I have to do? You know, it tells us as well to be doomed as alcoholic death or living a spiritual basis are not always easy alternatives to face. Oh my gosh, how true that is for us. I don't know about you guys. Maybe I'm just making assumptions, but it's like, okay, alcoholic death. How many years am I going to more drink for? What is a spiritual basis? Like, no, Cathy. There's one door, or there's one or two. Which door is it? And of course, spiritual basis. It's the only thing. And, you know, it goes on to talk about that, but cheer up, like, it isn't so difficult. Half our fellowship are exactly that type. At first, we try to avoid the issue, hoping against hope we're not true alcoholics. But after a while, we had to face the fact that we must find a spiritual basis, or else basis of life, or else what? Doomed to an alcoholic death. They knew who they were talking to. And I find a bit of comfort in that, because, you know, how could this thing solve this drink thing and this unmanageability and everything? Like, and what is a spiritual basis of life? Well, I know what I have here I don't want, so maybe I'll do that. And you guys might know and you understand me because you're telling me that you're exactly of that type, that some of this fellowship, this, 100 or how many under 100 is. And it tells us that we try to avoid the issue. I can't avoid it. And it tells us more in the pages that come after it about evading and avoiding. And I can't avoid the issue. I either have to do something about this or I will return to drinking or take my own life, the supreme sacrifice. That's the only thing. But going on to talk about the unmanageability a little bit here, and at the bottom of page 44 talks about if this mere code of morals or better philosophy to life were sufficient to overcome alcoholism, many of us would have recovered long ago. But we find that such codes and philosophies did not save us, no matter how much we tried. We could wish to be moral, we could wish to be philosophically comforted. In fact, we could will these things with all our might, but the needed power was in their human resources as marshaled by the will were not sufficient, they failed utterly. So these mere code of morals, maybe if I was brought up better philosophy is maybe if I prayed a little bit more. If that was enough to overcome alcoholism, we would have recovered long ago. Right? And, the definition as per the big book of what alcoholism is, what I was taught, alcoholism is this utter inability to leave it alone, no matter how great the necessity or wish. Period. I don't know these things I hear. I'll not get into a debate, but that's what I was told, and that was my experience. It wasn't I seek misery or I sponsor myself and none of this kind of stuff. But my code and philosophy did not save me how much I tried. My trying to be a better person, right? Trying to show up earlier to work on time, trying to do a full day's work and not be on my phone on Facebook, right? Trying to pray more, do more spiritual exercises. It's not going to change me. It's not enough, right? Because my needed power the needed power is not there. My own resources marshaled by my own will, they failed me. You can't tell me, just don't go on Facebook at work, Cathy. Just do your day's work. I know that's been really, dishonest. I'm stealing. That's not enough for me. I'll still do it. Maybe I'll do it not for 2 days, but I'm going to go back to that. Because this lack of power is my dilemma. I lie when I don't want to lie. That's why I do inventory. I can't just change because it's, oh yeah, I see the problem. I'm just going to change on my own. No. Lack of power. That was our dilemma. And lack of power. It's a small p here in our book. We're on page 45. Lack of strength. We had to find a power by which we could live. And it had to be a power greater than ourselves. Obviously, but where and how were we define this power? So this is our dilemma, this lack of power. And it tells us, well, that's exactly about what this book is about. The main object is enable you to find power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem, your lack of power. So I go through this process with my hand in the hand of my sponsors. Also, whoever's coming in new to Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm going to them, right? I'm telling them about what's going on with me. I've got this big book and this sponsor, and my life's getting better. And I'm trying to help them. I'm not sponsoring them, but I'm helping them. and my hand in the hand of my sponsors were turning these pages to remove these blocks. And my sponsors just guiding me and put my hand in the hand of the powers, right? That will solve my problem. This power, I must find this power. And I feel like I could have did this step more justice after I'm finished speaking about it now. There's so much in step one. And, it goes on to talk about our bedevilments as well. How that spiritual malady shows up in our life on page 52. And that's exactly where I was when I was going through this work as well. It was on page 52 because I wasn't drinking. And if you're new here, I suggest that if you want what we have, to reach out to one of us. My number's beside my name, and ask for the help, because we're here. That's what we're here for. So you can have this experience. So you never have to drink. And for those that are seasoned members, I hope your catch was good today. I was doing the pitching, and if there's anything that is incorrect, I'm sure you can let me know. I'm very honored to be here, and thank you for letting me share. That's all I have.